in law in English, followed by Ariel from Bellevue Service Unit 435, Troop 46939, who will recite the Girl Scout Promise and Law in Spanish. Thank you, ladies, for sharing these videos with us today.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Girl Scouts attention. Color Guard attention. Color Guard advance. Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, salute. Girl Scouts, the flag of our country. Please now join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Girl Scouts, please now join us in the Girl Scout Promise.
On my honor, I will try to serve God and my country,
to help people at all times and to live by the Girl Scout law.
La promesa de Girl Scouts. Por mi honor, yo trataré de servir a Dios y mi patria, ayudar a las personas en todo momento y vivir conforme a la ley de Girl Scouts.
I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, responsible for what I say and do,
And to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout.
La ley de Girl Scouts. Yo me esforzaré por ser honrada y justa, cordial y servicial, considerada y compasiva, valiente y fuerte y responsable de lo que hago y digo, y respetarme a mí misma y a los demás, respetar a la autoridad, usar los recursos de manera prudente, hacer del mundo un mejor lugar y ser una hermana para cada Girl Scout.
This is our land acknowledgement. Girl Scouts of Western Washington's many offices and properties in the Western Washington region occupy the ancestral lands of many indigenous communities: Duwamish, Puget Sound Salish, Nisqually, Snohomish, Tulalip, Clallam, Twanis, Chinook, Cowlitz, Chehalis, and Nooksack. Though displaced, these people are the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. To say this is to acknowledge a debt to those who were here before us and to recognize our role as colonizers, as well as our responsibility to respect and honor the intimate relationship Indigenous peoples have to this land. This acknowledgement is a small step toward reconciliation and improved relations with the tribal communities in our region. We take it to remind us of the history that has shaped our present and will continue to shape our future. It also reminds us to be intentional in our relationship with the land and with the people Indigenous to this region. Our council's work needs to be informed by that history to best serve our communities and realize our commitment to be an anti-racist organization.
Thank you, Megan. My name is Shannon Patan. I'm the Associate Vice President of Executive Support and Facilities for Girl Scouts of Western Washington. I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your Saturday afternoon to be here with us to complete this important bylaw-driven portion of our work. I do want to remind everyone that we are recording this meeting. We recognize that your time is valuable, so we want to keep our meeting running on time and on agenda, which should allow us plenty of time at the end of the meeting to hear and respond to the questions you've gathered from your fellow service unit volunteers. While you were gathering in our lobby, we were taking attendance and will be using that information to assure that we have a quorum for this meeting. As with many virtual meetings, there may be a few hiccups along the way, since we've already experienced those. So we hope you'll be forgiving if we occasionally stumble or lose our footing. We're using Zoom as our meeting platform today. Most of us have spent way too much time on Zoom this year than ever before, but we want to take just a moment to go over a few features and how we'd like to use them today. Delegates, if you haven't yet changed your name for the meeting, please do so now. If you're having an issue with that, you can put that in the chat and we'll change it for you. And when you do that, please, what should read on the screen is your service unit number, your first name, and then your last name. There's also a raise hand icon. If you have a tech issue, please raise your virtual hand and we'll contact you to see if we can fix the issue. You'll also see the Q&A icon. At the end of the meeting, this is the feature we'd like you to use if you have a question. We'll work through this list to answer those questions as quickly as we can. When the time comes for voting, we'll be giving additional instructions on that. And we're now going to move on to the reports from our board chair, CEO, and board treasurer. If you have questions that come up during these reports, please make note of them and you'll be able to ask them at the end of our meeting using that Q&A icon.
Thank you, Shannon. Oh my gosh, don't you just love Zoom? And good afternoon again, everyone. Throughout 2020, we experienced an unprecedented and challenging year, not just as an organization, but also to our private lives as members, volunteers, staff, and board. We had to live through constant changing uncertainty that tested our creativity, flexibility, patience, and responsiveness. Some of the decisions made this past year were necessary from a safety perspective, but also heartbreaking. With your love, support, and dedication to Girl Scouts, we made it through, and 2021 is looking at least a bit rosier. With this meeting, I have now reached the board term limit of 12 years. I really do have a lot of gray under this hair. I am so very proud to have served on the Girl Scouts of Western Washington board with a wonderful group of committed directors. I thank each of you for your leadership and service, and especially with Megan and her entire team for their continued leadership, passion, and dedication. To all of our volunteers, my personal thank you for being our shining light and our backbone. Because of you, we are on a brighter and sustainable path that will enable Girl Scouts of Western Washington to continue to fulfill its mission for our girls. With that, I turn this meeting over to CEO Megan Ferlin. Thank you.
Thank you, May. My aim is going to be to get through this without tearing up. Can't imagine. I want to thank you all for joining us today. I'm Megan Ferland, CEO of Girl Scouts of Western Washington, and I'm so glad that we have the chance to get together and stay connected, even if it is virtually. Each of you play a critical role in helping Girl Scouts reach their full potential. I continue to be so grateful to serve alongside all of you as we work together to support Girl Scouts through this truly epic time in history. As May said, 2020 was an unbelievable year and not in any way that we could have foreseen. From the pandemic to the racial justice movement and environmental issues, our organization of Girl Scouts, their families, volunteers, donors, and staff have endured and, yes, succeeded in ways that we could not have foreseen. When I look from last annual meeting to now, it seems like a lifetime ago. And I see resilience and strength. So while 2020 was definitely the year of the pivot, with many challenges that came along the way, there is also so much to celebrate as a council. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm going to update you on happenings around our council, and there is a lot to cover today, including a council report on the organizational changes that we've gone through because of the pandemic, a program update that highlights the ways that we adapted our programming because of the stay-at-home orders, an update on the social justice movement and our own work related to our council's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and finally, key actions for 2021. Going to start with the council report. I think of it as the pandemic pivot, which sounds a little bit like a dance in my head. As always, everything that we do starts with our mission, that universal Girl Scout mission to build girls of courage, confidence, and character who make the world a better place. From there, our council has a very unique vision. Our vision is we invest in our community through Girl Scouts. Our community represents every race, ethnicity, income level, sexual orientation, ability, and religion, reflects a spectrum of gender identity, and connects across geographic locations. By focusing our attention on community members who are furthest from racial, economic, and social justice, Girl Scouts can be an instrument of change, promoting equitable outcomes for all. We wholly commit to taking action to grow as an anti-racist and anti-oppressive organization so that through Girl Scouts, our members are affirmed as they strive to make our community and world better. With that vision in mind, and always our mission, we are really working to learn from our volunteers, Girl Scouts, and data to adapt so that we can continually better serve our members. Our organizational priorities through 2022 are stability, relevancy, and visibility. Stability in every facet of our values-based operation, including finances, membership, programming, organizational culture, and workforce support. And when I say workforce, I mean volunteers and staff. It is a partnership together. Relevancy from culturally responsive programming, communications, and operations that girls, families, volunteers, and staff council-wide are attracted to and resonate with. And visibility that drives our culturally responsive in-person and virtual community presence through showcasing our council's results to key audiences through high impact avenues. Those three organizational priorities are what we are focusing our efforts on as we're moving forward. Stability, relevancy, visibility. Our council, Girl Scouts of Western Washington, also has identified these three values that we aspire to in how we go about our work. I'm stressing aspire to because we do not achieve this. We don't get it right 24/7, 365 days a year. But this is what we aim to do as we're doing our work. Cultivate inclusion. We listen to, welcome, and value different identities, perspectives, and experiences to enrich our lives and work environment, inform equitable decision-making, and enhance the work we do with members, employees, and the communities that we serve. Adapt, and this one has been a biggie this year. We are an agile, resilient learning organization that embraces change and is responsive to the dynamic needs of our members, employees, and the communities we serve. Collaborate. We operate with transparency, leverage collective genius. We have a lot of collective genius across our entire organization. Partner internally and externally, and communicate transparently with unwavering candor, honesty, and respect to deliver life-changing outcomes for Girl Scouts, preparing them to do big things. These are the 3 values that we strive to embody. Don't always get there, but it is what we are working to be and embody. We were guided by our values and our vision as we went through all of the changes we had to implement this year. These changes really are captured in these three key areas: budget, staffing, and structure. And what it amounts to is our council is very different than what it was a year ago. We did experience a significant impact to our budget. You'll hear more about that in the treasurer's report in a little bit. But what I am thrilled to share with you is that we did end fiscal year 2020 in the black, squeaked through with a surplus of about $14,000. It took a tremendous amount of sacrifice and effort from everyone across our operation. It was not without a lot of pain, but it did result in a positive end to our fiscal year, which was a monumental achievement. Like so many organizations facing economic challenges, COVID-19 has hit every one of our revenue streams. Consequently, we did have to make the very difficult but absolutely necessary decision to reduce our staffing structure by nearly half. This was not a decision that was made lightly or without a great deal of heartbreak, but financial sustainability for the long-term success, enabling us to serve future generations of Girl Scouts was and is our paramount responsibility. So we are pulling together to continue to deliver the best leadership development experience for girls as we move forward in this leaner, more efficient structure. And we are doing that by working across teams and with volunteers in more effective ways. We're still working remotely as a council. We're only going into our office spaces as needed right now. We are looking forward to the day when we are able to go in for meetings and project work as we want to, but we will stay permanently in this telework environment. Our volunteers are training and gathering online with their troops. Our virtual Girl Scouts at Home programming is still going strong. We are looking forward to being able to be back in person as soon as it's safe to do so. But Girl Scouts has landed on its feet after an incredibly tumultuous year, and our volunteers, board, and staff have hit the ground running to ensure fiscal year 21's success. We are well positioned and well on the way in this current fiscal year. When we go on and look at our properties update, there have been developments with respect to our properties as well. As you no doubt will recall, in 2017, we did make the difficult decision to put our DuPont Program Center on the market to allow us to move to a better way to serve membership all across our southern counties. A few months back, we did receive an offer that has been approved, and we are moving rapidly toward closing on that sale the first week of April. The buyer is the Cowlitz Indian tribe, and the tribe will use the site to provide medical and cultural services to Cowlitz tribal members, as well as other American Indians and Alaska Natives living in the area. We expect to be fully out of that office by the end of April, and our primary focus now is relocating the store, as that is the priority for our Girl Scout community right now. We are currently working on a retail location for the southern counties. This beautiful property, it has great cultural and historical meaning for the Cowlitz tribe, and I'm thrilled to have it in their hands. They've invited us to be part of a blessing ceremony when pandemic restrictions allow, so stay tuned to hear more about that. With respect to our horse program, we have had to suspend that, put it on pause. As you know, for decades, our horse program has been a source of tremendous joy and growth for many girls. And this was another tough decision, deciding to sell our horses this year. We know that it's also been a difficult decision for many in the community. It's been a difficult decision for us as well. But the horses' well-being had to come first. Their care and exercise needs exceed what we were able to provide at this current time. We did turn first to our membership in seeking homes for our horses, and we're very, very grateful for the response we received. For summer 2021, we won't offer horse camp sessions at either of our camp properties. Camp St. Albans will remain closed through this membership year, and we're continuing to evaluate the feasibility of summer programming at Camp River Ranch and Camp Lyle McLeod. In 2022, we are committed to seeking an avenue to provide horse programming that meets what our members want in an equitable and sustainable way. With respect to the property assessment, in the coming months, we are doing a comprehensive evaluation of all of our council properties, including both camps and offices. We're looking at this through both a strategic lens as well as sustainably meeting our mission through our properties. The first look at this is with respect to our camp properties. We're in the midst right now of forming a board and volunteer camp property advisory group to help us with this evaluation of camp properties and any recommendations that may be necessary with respect to our camp property portfolio. I want to be clear that at this point, no Girl Scouts of Western Washington camps are currently for sale, and no decisions have been made regarding camp properties. The advisory group will begin work very rapidly in the next couple of weeks, and we expect that the camp portion of the property assessment will be completed in June of 2021. There will be routine communication with membership during this process, and any details about the implementation of whatever recommendations come forward will be communicated in the summer and fall of 2021. We understand the deep connections that many people have to the camps. For many families, those connections go back generations. And I get that any talk of us evaluating the camp portfolio is really scary. We are committed to transparency and engaging members, volunteers, donors, and staff throughout this effort. So what else has happened in 2020? Our cookie program started with the biggest celebration we have ever had with the Lemon Cookie Parade in downtown Seattle. Have to highlight this very important pre-COVID moment. It was a really special and really fun day. And then the next day, the governor announced a state of emergency and everything changed. This is a timeline of key events that happened over the course of the rest of the year. We're going to talk about several of them as we move through the rest of my conversation here. A lot happened, from having to close camps to everyone having to work from home, the staff reductions, racial justice movement. It's been a heck of a year. The result of a lot of this is we are seeing a major impact from the pandemic with respect to our membership numbers. In 2020, we saw a 10% drop in our membership. Not surprising given the pandemic and the shift to virtual everything. We get it. I mean, everyone is experiencing virtual fatigue. I know I am. I expect lots of you are. And I will be clear that we are anticipating seeing another significant drop in membership in FY 2021. We are very much looking forward to being able to be back in person as soon as possible. The truth is, we need you to help us solve critical issues facing our Girl Scout population, from ensuring equity and access to quality programming, to preserving our outdoor assets for future generations. We all are in this work together, and we all will be working together to champion every Girl Scout who joins what we know is a truly life-changing program because of the outcomes that our programs achieve. So let's talk more about our programming. What it does for our Girl Scouts literally is life-changing. We have had to adapt it because of the pandemic, but we've continued to achieve remarkable things. Let's go ahead and go on to the next slide, Shannon. Let's go to the next one. There we are. So these are our program pillars, the ones that we work to across that are established by GSUSA. Over the last year, we have dedicated our program resources across these 5 pillars. Outdoors, STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. With all of these in partnership with many, many local partners, we hosted over 515 programs in 2020. Going on to look at our Girl Scouts at Home page. Next slide. What our new reality is that programs that used to be in person are now delivered online. And we shifted nearly overnight to adapt those in-person programmings to a virtual setting. Girl Scouts at Home is what we called it. And since we started with the pandemic, we've been offering our original programming for free to any girl who wants it. We are adjusting our program model going forward so that we can always offer a robust virtual catalog of programs. Throughout the first several months of the pandemic, Girl Scout staff were getting a lot of feedback from volunteers and parents on how we needed to be supporting them. And one of the things that we were hearing was that they really needed and wanted hosted programs led by qualified Girl Scout staff members, covering that wide variety of topics. So we created the program specialist role, and these staff members are hosting virtual programs every week for Girl Scouts at every program level. The response has been very, very positive. So we're really excited about continuing that through the year. Girl Scouts Made from Home is a section on our website that showcases our local innovators doing things like creating fabric mask tutorials, offering mental health resources, and communication tips for girls and families. It's so exciting to see the incredible adaptability of our girls and Girl Scouts. When you look at our entrepreneurship, this came through no place more loudly than in our cookie program. As you already know, because of COVID, we did have to cancel the public portion of the cookie program for the first time in our council's history. We did have nearly 14,000 girls participate in the cookie program. They sold over 4 million packages, but we did have over 300,000 boxes of returned cookie inventory. Bartell's stepped in and was our retail partner, and we sold over 250,000 of those packages. We appreciated that partnership so much and are really excited to partner with QFC this year in our cookie program. Digital cookie program, the digital cookie is part of our annual cookie program, and it lets Girl Scouts sell cookies online to family and friends. This was already a strong program even before it became a necessity. Now it is absolutely critical for us. We partner with AT&T and the DigiPen Institute of Technology to provide marketing magic, where girls get to learn how to write, shoot, and edit a marketing video that they then load to their digital cookie platform. 450 Girl Scouts participated in that, and it really gives them a leg up in their sales, which, as we had to pivot to online because of COVID, became even more crucial. I do also want to address the palm oil situation, as a mild word for it. What I want to call out is that we are absolutely cheering Olivia on, the Girl Scout who brought issues around palm oil to the world's attention. She did what Girl Scouts taught her to do, using her voice to champion something that she cares deeply about. The consequences of palm oil production, child labor, human trafficking, is beyond horrific. And we should all be adamantly calling for the bakeries to make sure that their number one priority is, as long as we are stuck with palm oil being an ingredient in the cookies, it should be their absolute priority to ensure that that ingredient is coming from certified suppliers. So we are super proud of Olivia for using her Girl Scout skills to call attention to this horrible situation. Going on with Girl Scout skill building, looking at our other programmatic impact. You want to go on to the next slide, Shannon? In the week leading up to the election, the program team hosted Democracy Week, which was met with a ton of excitement. It featured virtual programming, giving Girl Scouts at every program level the chance to learn about local and national government structures, hear from elected officials, watch and debrief the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary, learning more about her life and impact. We are also building on programs that make us uniquely Girl Scouts of Western Washington, like our Zombie Emergency Preparedness Challenge. In 2020, over 12,000 Girl Scouts from across the world participated in that program. and more than 3,500 Girl Scouts around the country participated in the special COVID edition. Pretty phenomenal when you think about that. Over 250 of our Girl Scout members also completed their silver and gold awards last year. Looking at our STEAM programming, one thing that I think it's important to call out is that Girl Scouts are more likely than non-Girl Scouts to participate in STEM activities at a rate of 60% to 35%. That is a really impactful path for them, and more than 1,200 Girl Scouts participated in STEM activities over the course of last year. It was an incredibly difficult decision, but absolutely necessary to cancel all of our camp programs, in-person camp programs last year. Instead, Girl Scouts were able to participate in our virtual camp at home programming. Despite it being online, it actually was geared to get them outside. We offered 8 weeks of activities inspired by the weekly themes of our in-person summer camps, encouraging them to explore, create camp in their own backyards and neighborhoods. And activities were fit each theme. Activities that fit each theme were sent to them in a bi-monthly newsletter, as well as posted on our website and shared through our social media. I do want to say that while this was a really fun alternative, there's no way around the great sadness that so many people experienced around the council at not being able to have in-person camp. And we are so looking forward to being able to have campers back at camp. I also want to give a shout out to volunteer-led camp programs, our encamperees, the incredible man hours, person hours, I should say, that go into hosting day and community camps. And our outdoor champions offered an incredible variety of outdoor themed programs that had a tremendous reach. When you look at some of these, the themes are just phenomenal. Who did what in the woods? I love that one. 290 participants. The Sasquatch Playground and Sasquatch Challenge, over 1,200 participants. What the volunteer-led camp program achieves is remarkable. In terms of financial assistance, in 2020, we awarded close to $200,000 last year, serving more than 5,000 members, and funded 256 events. It is an invaluable program of ours that allows Girl Scouts to participate who wouldn't be able to otherwise. We do expect this to increase significantly due to impacts from COVID. Moving on, want to provide an update on our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. And this also is something that we are building on. This is particularly timely, given that we are in Black History Month in the month of February. And we also are seeing the first Black Vice President woman in office. So we're underscoring the importance of building a Girl Scout community of every race and ethnicity that is a source of connection and mutual support. We've really been witnessing an uprising against racial injustice across the country. That is an understatement. So many things that have happened in this last year have deepened our understanding of the weight of growing our cultural competence and humility, and has deepened our resolve to do that. So Girl Scouts of Western Washington is committed to not just sharing messages of support, we're committed to taking and sustaining action towards greater equity. What I'm sharing today is a snapshot of the work that we're doing. to really live our council's vision and how we're amplifying our support for our Black, Indigenous, people of color, girls, families, volunteers, donors, alumni, employees. This framework is going to be on our website. We're also going to be communicating it out in the e-newsletter that will go out on February 11th. So please know that this is just a snapshot. There is much more detail than I'm able to provide here. The work really falls into these 5 themes. Our department leaders looked, if you can go back to the prior slide, Shannon, that one. Our department leaders looked at the activities we're engaged in or that we're planning. And also, most importantly, we really worked to listen to what our BIPOC community members are telling us to do and also stop doing. And that led to these priorities and activities across the organization. The first one is embed our vision in our structural systems, business processes, and efforts. An example of that is that we have challenged and are continuing to challenge GSUSA and their database systems to put a stop to racial profiling that happens within the troop formation process. I co-chair GSUSA's DEI and Racial Justice Steering Committee and am one of the 2 co-chairs sitting on the GSUSA's board committee. And that is giving me an avenue to continue to push on these. The second one is educate volunteers and employees on DEI topics. An example here is for volunteers offering DEI focused webinars and a virtual web workshop series on topics like how to talk to youth about race, being an ally, and addressing inappropriate comments. Third one is offering programming that removes barriers and access to inclusion and teaches Girl Scouts about social justice and racial equity. The program team is creating a patch series for all levels focused on racial justice. And when resident camp resumes, we have a session planned specifically for Black Girl Scouts and their families. Number 4, forging partnerships with other organizations that share our vision. We have launched a program called South Sound Sisters with Tacoma Public Schools, and we're working with UW's diversity department on troop programming, plus mentorship and foster care programs. We're also exploring partnership opportunities with Outdoor Afro. Number 5, recruit and retain racially diverse volunteers, board members, and employees so all Girl Scouts see themselves represented. Example here is that we've improved our application review and interview processes to reduce implicit bias, strengthen our HR practices, and increase representation of people of color at all levels of the organization. Our executive team is now 50% women of color, and the board is 1/3 people of color. We will continue always working to improve how we do there. Again, those are just a snapshot of the work, and the entire frame will be available on the website. We're also expanding that DEI section of our website. So it includes information and resources ranging from how to be allies and advocates for the Black community to disability justice, LGBTQ+ rights, and topics that allow us to continue working toward our commitment to ensure we're an inclusive and welcoming environment. Our marketing team is also working in collaboration with our DEI team so that our messaging is connected to everything we do. And that shows in our messaging that goes out, which these are examples of that. The response has been very strong around messaging that reinforces our position on supporting our BIPOC communities. We see that from the response of our audience when we are very clear on our values and stand behind our vision. In terms of our 2021 that we have underway, we are really excited about taking what we've learned from this past year to create an better experience for our Girl Scouts. That is always what we're striving to do. As we move through this year, we are focused on those priorities: stability, relevancy, and visibility. We are looking forward to getting back to in-person programming. With the modified opening under the state's guidance, we are looking forward to that happening soon. The camp property assessment will begin in earnest in these next coming weeks. As I said, there will be routine communication with membership about this during this process, and any details about recommendations will be communicated in summer and fall of 2021. A board member reminded me that Girl Scouts have always adapted to meet the needs of the newest generation of young people. We're doing that now as we challenge our set ways of operating. We're developing creative workarounds. We're redesigning the blueprint of what it means to be a Girl Scout in this new world we are navigating. It is exciting, it is inspiring, and it is a bit terrifying. But Girl Scouts have been conquering challenges for 108 years, and we are getting through this one. I think in years to come, when we look back, we will see the better, stronger organization that we are all working together to create. You are a pivotal part of both our current and future success story, and I appreciate everything that you are doing to help with that. We're excited for what this new year has in store. Girl Scouts happens because of our volunteers. So thank each of you. I also want to thank all of our partners and our donors. Thank you to our individual donors. This slide just makes me so happy. Nearly 1,600 individuals supported Girl Scouts through event giving, non-event gifts, volunteer matching in a wide variety of ways. I also want to say a huge thank you to our corporate partners over the past year who continue to be champions and contributors to our stability, our relevancy, and our visibility. I am so proud of the adapting, the repurposing, the reimagining, the innovating that our Girl Scouts, our volunteers, our partners, our donors, our staff have done to commit to the future of Girl Scouting. With you, with your ongoing work, we will remain relevant in an ever-changing landscape and be what our young people need us to be, which is united in the face of injustice, demanding progress, in championing the ambitions of our Girl Scouts across our region. I want to thank my board, who are incredible shepherds, ambassadors, cheerleaders of me and my team. And with that, I would like to introduce Board Treasurer and Artizone for the Treasurer's Report.
Thank you, Megan. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
This is the Treasurer's Report for 2020, and I'm going to walk you through the impact of COVID-19, where our funds come from, where our money goes, what we provide and support, and lastly, our financial focus going forward. As we all know, 2020 was a year like no other. The resilience of our Girl Scouts, their families, our volunteers, donors, board, and staff have helped our council stay on course. But our council has adapted a lot. In order to remain stable, we've had to reduce, restructure, and be creative. Our finances help tell that story. Let's start with the impact of COVID-19. And as a reminder, The Girl Scouts has a fiscal year that runs October 1st through September 30th. We were 5 months into the 2020 fiscal year when COVID hit. While the Treasurer's report is usually presented as a year-over-year comparison, aside from this slide, for the remainder of this report, we will be showing actuals to budget. As you look at this slide, realize that the bold black lines represent the budget and the bold blue lines represent actual, or where we came in relative to our plan. From 2019 to 2020, the council budget decreased significantly. We see this on the revenue side. Although the cookie program, our primary source of revenue, improved 2% over 2019, other forms of revenue were severely impacted as we were forced to close camp programs and shut down retail operations for the duration of the year. Overall, total program revenues were down 10%. Personnel costs were cut 11%, which meant major realignment in how teams work. Supplies were cut by 41%. Taking swift actions to cut costs, overall expenses were reduced by 22%. These kinds of decreases come with a lot of change. The teams have been able to adjust the organizational culture, realize efficiencies, and benefit from the new ways of doing work. So let's go to the next slide. How did we do? This slide shows you that the bottom line for the year was essentially break even, and that is quite remarkable. Thanks to resilience and creativity, we had a modest surplus of around $14,000 despite the pandemic. Girl Scouts started the year strong with promising revenue in every category and exceeding the prior year until the pandemic hit. That strong start, especially the cookie program, made the difference. Although the pandemic had a significant impact on our cookie program, remember, the governor shut down the state in the middle of March. Booth sales had already been slowing as the pandemic spread, and at that point, they stopped altogether. But thanks to digital sales and a fantastic partnership with Bartels, we were able to meet the cookie program budget. Where do we get our funds? If you look at the right-hand column, the budget, you can see that we plan to have 95% of our revenues from 3 sources: product sales, primarily the cookie program, programming fees, primarily camp, and public support. The left-hand column shows you the actual result for the year. Product sales turned out to be the hero, again, thanks to fall product sales, cookie program, and the Bartels partnership. Program fees dropped to near zero, and public support or philanthropy played a significant role in helping us meet the budget for the fiscal year, coming in at 77% of budget. Next slide. Our donations were down from expectation due to lack of in-person fundraising. However, philanthropy exceeded their original pandemic expectations by over $400,000. 68% of our donations came without restriction and were put toward general operations and financial assistance. The remaining 32% of donations were restricted to specific programs, operations, or regions. Examples include funding for Girl Scouts behind bars, financial assistance for Pierce County, and maintenance needs at Camp Robbinswold. Due to reduced in-person programming, much of the restricted financial assistance dollars were not released in 2020, and we're anticipating greater need of those funds. We hope the community continues to support our efforts to meet increased demand. Let's look some more at public support. As you can see, individuals make up 93% of our donor base. Our community, including our Girl Scout community, is critically important source of funding to ensure we can meet the needs of all of our Girl Scouts. We want to highlight a few areas of giving that were of importance. At the time of joining or renewing their membership, 429 members gave a gift through the registration process. We had an additional 107 volunteers who submitted their service for a matching program, which provided an additional 88,000 of girls support. Another 97 donors submitted their financial donation and doubled their impact with an additional 29,000 for the council. While it's not listed here, it should be celebrated that we had 5 longtime volunteers join our Juliet Gordon Lowe Society by adding a gift to Girl Scouts in their estate plans. So where does our money go? Girl programming, the lion's share of our revenues, 83%, went towards Girl Scout programming, including $3.34 million in troop cookie proceeds. Management in general, 11% of our funds. And fundraising, 6% of Girl Scout funds went toward these expenses. Fundraising expenses exceeded budget by $72,000 in 2020. These increased expenses are related to an increase in in-kind giving, and that's a good thing. In-kind donations, however, must be offset by a corresponding expense to a net neutral bottom line, as they are not cash gifts. We recorded nearly $80,000 more than originally budgeted, which meant we recorded an additional $80,000 in expenses to offset the additional revenue. If you back this out, fundraising expenses came in under budget. And now let's look at our capital projects. Girl Scouts of Western Washington has clear criteria for prioritizing capital budgets. First is health and safety of our girls, improved program delivery, and asset preservation of camps. In 2020, the expense was $57,000 against a capital budget of $175,000. And now let's look at financial assistance. Next slide, please. Financial assistance in 2020 was about 41% of the prior year's amount due to the pandemic lockdown. This particular effort has been impacted in multiple ways, with membership down, programs happening virtually, and camps being closed. Given the pandemic's widespread economic impact, we anticipate the needs will escalate as soon as we return to in-person programming. And next slide, please. Let's take a look at overhead. Keeping overhead low is a primary objective of our organization, ensuring that the money we raise goes to Girl Scouts. We look at 3 benchmarks to assess our performance. Charity Navigator, the nation's largest charity evaluator, gives the highest rating to nonprofits with management and fundraising percentages below 25%. Secondly, the Better Business Bureau. It has a separate charity rating site, give.org, that recommends a maximum overhead of 35% of total expenses. And third, United Way recommends that its funded organizations have total overhead costs between 15 and 25%. We are historically below 20%, and in 2020, it was 17%, meeting all 3 metrics. So what does our council own? You can see that we had $20.7 million in assets. And a note here is that camps, building, and equipment are reflected net of depreciation. Items of significance for the year: at the beginning of full year 2020, the Bellevue property was sold and the Monroe horse property was purchased. Cash and equivalents represent our operational reserve. This line item includes PPP loan of $2.4 million. The PPP loan, known as the Paycheck Protection Program, was part of the federal government's CARE Act, and it was received in April. And of the $2.4 million received, we anticipate 100% loan forgiveness when our application is filed later this month. We are thankful to the federal government for providing this support for nonprofit organizations. And lastly, our focus going forward. These should look familiar to you, as Megan covered them in her CEO report as our organizational objectives: stability, relevancy, and visibility. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Anne. Remember that if you have any questions about items presented in the treasurer's report, we have time reserved at the end of the meeting to answer the questions. And I know that there are some questions starting in the Q&A section already. At this time, I would like to introduce Charlie Foray, Chair of the Board Development Committee for the Girl Scouts of Western Washington, who will report on the slate of nominees for the board. Charlie?
Thanks, May. Shannon, is my sound okay?
You sound wonderful.
All right. My name's Charlie Foray. As my role as the Board Development Committee Chair, it's my pleasure to present for nomination the slate of candidates for the Board of Directors, including the officers of the Board of Directors. The Board Development Committee is charged with selecting candidates for nomination to the Board of Directors who believe deeply in the mission of the Girl Scout organization and who will further support the board's work in providing strategic direction for the council, work to steward partnerships and donors, and engage in the communities as ambassadors for Girl Scouts of Western Washington. As you can see from reviewing the bios of the nominees, which we're all very excited about in your delegate packet, we have a strong slate to present to you, and I'll go through those now. The returning board member at large standing for re-election is Sin Lanners for a 2-year term. New board member nominees, all standing for 3-year terms, are Leslie Feinzig, Scott Hines, MJ Vigil, and Daria Willis. The slate of officers presented for the 3-year terms are Random Mankara for chair, Carla Corcoran, second vice chair, and Charlie Foray as secretary. These nominations are coming from committee, and as such, I move the approval of their candidacy. And May, I'll turn it back to you for the vote.
Great, thank you, Charlie. We have a fabulous returning and new board members along with a great slate of officers. We officially have a quorum. There are 60 of the 81 service units represented by one or more elected delegates, or 74%. In attendance today, there are 154 of the 167 elected service unit delegates, 16 of the 20 board members and officers, and 1 of the 14 past presidents. This totals 171 of the 201 voting members, or 85%. The vote on the nominees is presented as a slate. Having not heard any objection to the nominees from voting members prior to this meeting, we will need a second to the motion. Can one of the delegates please type "I second the motion" in the chat section now?
The chat's turned off, so it may need to go in Q&A. Oh, Jen turned it on. Sorry.
And
Wait.
thank you for the individuals who are seconding the motion. It has been moved and seconded, and we accept the slate of board officers and board members at large. So now we are trying a new method for voting today using Microsoft Forms. In the chat box, you will find, is it in the chat box? You'll find a link to an online form for voting. Our voting body consists of registered service unit delegates, alternate delegates only if your delegate was not able to attend, board members, board development committee members, or past council board presidents. Only these people may vote. If there is one or more voting member participating in your location, each member needs to access the voting form separately to register their vote. And on the screen, you can either scan the QR code on the screen with a smartphone phone or tablet, click the link in the chat box, or type in a web browser. So we'll now pause for a moment to allow everyone the chance to finalize their vote.
Yeah, Jen has placed the link in the chat box, so if you need to click on that in order to access it, or you can type it in directly from what you see on the screen, or scan your QR code. And votes are coming in now. Jen's gathering those, so we'll just give that another minute for everybody to work through that process. We have about 93 out of 171 eligible voters right now, May. Over 100.
I know people are still doing it. In the chat, apparently the link is asking people to sign in versus I just used the QR code, which was a lot easier for me.
What's our total? So we're at 107 right now. Which is about 62% of the vote. And people are still voting.
Okay.
So May, at this point, we have all yays and 1 abstain. So I don't know when you want to call that.
I will, and how many have voted?
66% or so. Jen's doing quick math over here.
Thanks, Jen.
120 votes right now out of 170 something. And it's still going up. Every vote counts. I think we've learned that this year.
Yes.
%71% at this point.
Let's get to at least 80 and then I will call it.
Okay. We're about 10 votes shy. Jen's just watching the ticker.
Yeah, and Shannon, looking at the time, I'm going to call it.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for your patience in going through this route. It's a learning experience for all of us, and officially the motion to elect the slate of board and board officers carries. So now we would like to invite all board members to introduce themselves. How are you going to do that? Board members, please turn on your video and unmute yourself. We will do this in alphabetical order by first names. As I announce your name, please state your full name and the city you represent. Let's start with Ahmad.
Hello, everybody. I knew I was going to have to go first, May, but thank you so much for having us today, and thank you for everybody that put this on. So my name is Ahmad Daher, and I represent the city of...
Oh, wait, Ahmad, you went on mute. You represent the city of...
Oops, sorry about that. So I represent the city of Redmond.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anne.
Hello, Ann Artizone, and I represent the city of Des Moines.
Thank you. Carla?
I'm Carla, and I represent the city of Bainbridge Island.
Woohoo. Carol?
I'm Carol Wheeler, and I represent the city of Everett.
Thank you. Casey?
Hi, I'm Casey Zanetti, and I represent Seattle.
Great. Charlie?
Hi, Charlie Foray, and I represent Seattle as well.
Thank you. Sin?
I'm Sin Lanners, and I represent Woodinville.
Great. Dana?
I am Dana Henderson from Seattle.
Thank you. Daria?
Hello, Daria Willis, Lake Stevens.
Thank you. Elizabeth? I'm not sure if you're with us. Elka?
Hi, I'm Elka Super, and I represent Kirkland.
Great, thank you. Aaron? Erin, I know you're there.
I saw her picture earlier. I know she's here.
Erin Jones, I know you're there. I'll circle back. Jackie?
Hi, this is Jackie Devich, representing Seattle.
Thank you. Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Feinzeg, representing Seattle.
Thank you. Lisa, I don't believe you're with us.
No.
Thank you. She had a family emergency. MJ?
Sorry, hi, I'm MJ Hill and I'm representing Burien.
Thank you, MJ. Randa, I don't believe you're with us. She also had a family emergency. Scott, are you with us? How about Shelley? I know you were here.
Yep, Shelley Whelan and I represent Mercer Island.
Okay, and Erin, did you have to drop off? Oh, she was with us. Erin represents Tacoma, so thank you. Each year we ask all of our board members, both newly elected and those continuing to serve, to commit to Girl Scouts with an investiture. I will read the installation here, and any board or board development committee members on the call, feel free to read along wherever you are. Newly elected and continuing officers, board and board development committee members. Today you have made a commitment and a rededication to the girls of our community in a movement dedicated to building girls of courage, confidence, and character who will make the world a better place. Will you therefore, all of you, please join me in reading the pledge that's on your screen. You can come off mute. I affirm my belief.
My belief in the Girl Scout
movement
movement
and in the program
through its
Girl
Scout line and inspiration.
I will
Dedicate my time and effort to faithfully
Girl
Girl Scouts of Western Washington. This is my pledge, freely given.
Yay! Thank you, thank you. Thank you, board, and congratulations. Before I hand over the meeting, great, Jackie, you're on my screen. I would like to take a moment to say a few words about a board member who has also reached her board tenure of 12 years, and that's Jackie Devich. Jackie was first elected as a member at large back in 2009, became the board secretary in 2014, and became and remained second vice chair in 2016 until today. Jackie has been a very critical member of the board's executive committee. You know, Jackie, I practiced this, so I wouldn't tear up, okay? But I asked a few people, when you think of Jackie, what descriptors come to mind? The responses were consistent: kind, gracious, always smiling, generous, loyal, passionate, and has a keen strategic mind. She will be missed on the Girl Scout board. Jackie grew up as a Girl Scout herself and then became a member of her two daughters' troops while living in Indiana, Illinois, Colorado, and finally Washington. Her oldest daughter, Lauren, was a Girl Scout for 13 years and earned both her silver and gold awards. Her youngest daughter, Betsy, was a Girl Scout for 8 years, earning her bronze and silver awards. Jackie is a lifetime member of Girl Scouts. What will Jackie do with her free time? I did not need to ask her that. You can see the absolute love she has for her family through her Facebook posts, especially with the addition of her new grandson, Forrest. Jackie, many thanks for your years of support, service, leadership, and friendship to Girl Scouts and to me. We will miss you and wish you many, many more new adventures.
Thank you very much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be part of the board of Girl Scouts of Western Washington. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Jackie. So normally at this time, I would turn the meeting over to our newly elected board chair, Randa. But as I mentioned earlier, unfortunately, she had a family emergency. So like every well-prepared Girl Scout, Vice Chair Carla Corcoran has graciously agreed to step into her role today. So Carla.
Okay. I just want to say a little bit about our retiring member, May, and board chair. You've been an amazing supporter of girls, the Girl Scout organization, and me as a board member. I will never forget you agreeing to drive me to the Tacoma luncheon and in my driveway with a cast on your leg. And you proceeded to drive me to the luncheon, even though you were the one with a cast on your leg. And so that just shows the dedication that you had. From your unwavering support too of the organization and inclusiveness on the board, and yet your firm hand in making sure that we addressed the difficult issues that have come up for Girl Scouts during your tenure. I appreciate you always being the calm voice of reason, but also always asking the tough questions and listening respectfully to each member on the board as they grappled with understanding and voting their best answer to the realities. So I want to just thank you, May, that I think that you are the consummate Girl Scout. I have enjoyed getting to know you personally and professionally, and I don't know that this organization would have survived for a few times that you've stepped in and helped out in above and beyond way. And I also want to let you know that it has thrived and grown under your leadership. Megan also would like to take a minute to say a few words about you, May, before we move into the question and answer period of our meeting. So thank you, May and Megan.
Thank you, Carla.
I will also try and get through this without tearing up. First of all, Jackie, I want to say thank you to you for everything that you have brought to the board. It's been a pleasure working with you. And as I told you yesterday, I'm not going to let you get too far away. So I have ideas. May, to say that May's legacy as board chair is significant is just the ultimate understatement. One facet of that legacy is that she has brought clarity and transparency to our financial operation in myriad ways, but one of those is by training our staff, all across the organization. So to continue that and broaden it, we are beginning ongoing finance coffee chats. I'm thinking of them as numbers for Nuada or money talks for May, only you won't have to do them. So this will be an ongoing series for membership, anyone who's interested, beginning when after our new CFO starts. Our new CFO, Carlin Cox, starts on the 16th. We're going to give her a little bit of time to get her legs under her. So we're planning the first of these coffee chats to be April 10th. You'll hear more about it. The idea here is to continue May's legacy of demystifying our financial operation, providing that clarity and transparency for our membership. So having our CFO, other members of our finance leadership team, providing these coffee chats on a routine basis to give clarity to different facets of our financial operation. And May, thank you for that, for providing that to all of us and bringing that forward. I met May when I was interviewing for this position as CEO for this council. So I have literally not known Girl Scouts of Western Washington without her. It's hard to imagine. As you've heard, our organization has seen a lot during her tenure as board chair. May's expertise, her fearlessness, her poise, her wit. She has a fierce eye roll. It's been exactly what we have needed when we've needed it. I have learned so much from you, May. Yes, about financials, but also about leadership. And as is the case with all excellent leaders, Girl Scouts of Western Washington is stronger because of your service. Thank you for all that you've given to me, but more importantly, thank you for all that you've given to our Girl Scouts. And I'm not letting you get too far away either. With that, we will move forward. Carla.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so we've reached the point in our program where we'll begin taking questions. So I'd like to ask our program manager for Highest Awards and Travel, Jennifer Reck Allen, to explain the protocol of our question and answer segment.
Thank you very much, Carla. If you have a question for us, please mouse over the bottom of your screen and press the Q&A icon and type in your question. We will begin answering questions in just a minute as we sort through the questions and identify staff attending from their homes to answer those questions. As you type in your question, please indicate if you are one of our youth or adult members. We do ask that individuals limit themselves to a question or two so that we can hear from as many voices as possible today. In an effort to hear our youth voices, we will be prioritizing those questions where possible. In an effort to answer more questions, we will be responding live and in the Q&A forum to help expedite our response time. Questions that are asked repeatedly or require more context, we will prioritize in a live response. All questions that we are unable to get to in today's session will be answered by our staff team and posted to our website by the end of the month. And
So with that, Shannon, are we moving to live questions?
yes, we're sorting real quick because we had one geared up for the first one and I'm just trying to find it real quick.
Yes, sorry, now that I'm not sharing my screen anymore, I needed to find my icons again so we could start. So Jen, we've been answering a lot of these questions that have come up in the Q&A live or well written. We've typed the answer out and everybody should have access to see those questions that have already been answered. And then we're going to start working through the ones that we can answer in person.
All right, we have our first question. And this has been, we have many questions that have come in around this topic. I'll read it out. Without the 2.4 million PPP loan, would the council have ended the year 2.4 million in the red? In regards to that, we also have what was the 2.4 million PPP used for? So I'm going to pass that over to Megan if you'd like to answer those.
Sure. And actually, I'm going to also bring May in to answer this one as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to, Megan, if you'd like.
Sure.
So, just a second. My screen's here and the question's over here. So, without the 2.4 PPP loan, would the council have ended the year 2.4 million in the red? No. The 2.4 payroll protection loan was actually cash. So the government had issued or allowed the paycheck protection loan to be granted to organizations and companies with employees less than 500 people to be used for operations, which is what Girl Scout did. And what it allowed Girl Scouts to do then was to not go into debt. So Tiffany and Dawn, I hope that helped.
Thanks, May. Jen, is the next one the Monroe horse property? Is that the one we want to hit next?
Well, there's one more question regarding the PPP.
Oh.
Were all PPP funds spent or is there a remaining balance? If there is a remaining balance, is the plan to put those funds forward toward 2021 operations? They weren't. The question, the member that submitted the question wasn't able to discern from the financials how the PPP fit into the income statement.
So for clarity, again, the PPP is actually cash. It is not in the income statement. So, because when we first received the funds, there was the assumption that until we received guidelines from the Small Business Association, what were the parameters to get this loan forgiven? So if you're an accountant like cash came in, we then showed a liability on the balance sheet. So were all PPP loans spent, or is there remaining balance? Again, it's mixed into our cash. I believe we had about $1.7 million in cash left, which is pretty high for Girl Scouts at the end of a fiscal year. So that cash transfers over, and excuse me, our loan came through KeyBank. We are waiting for KeyBank to reopen their website for us specifically to submit our paperwork to then have the loan forgiven. And that way that cash is ours. And with the second wave that the government has just issued, we hope to again apply for Paycheck Protection Funds for 2021. Kristen, I hope that helps.
We ended the year with about 1.4 million.
Oh, 1.4. Okay.
Yeah, darn close.
Thank you.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Megan, it looks like we're assigning this one to you. Is the Monroe horse property still being leased out? I know Megan said no camp property is for sale, but technically it isn't a camp. What's the current plan for the property?
Sure. We do have a tenant on that property. They have expressed interest in buying it. We are in discussion on that. At this point, they are continuing to lease that property. And we do intend to sell it.
Thanks, Megan. So this is a rather long one here. I'm thankful for the board members taking on leading and empowering a remarkable organization that I continue to be proud of. I'm happy to have voted in favor of their participation. I cannot tell from the bios what their participation and relationship to Girl Scouts is on the ground. There is value to looking at high-level dashboard indicators, powerful community connections, and excellent leadership, and there is value to on-the-ground and location-diverse participation. Can you help me understand what the board members' relationship to on-the-ground Girl Scout participation is, and what board training looks like, especially in the section of what it looks like on the ground to be a Girl Scout representative? Megan, this one's for you as well.
I'm not 100% clear about what the question is. We recruit board members under particular priorities and with a very definite aim on diversity and geographic representation, and particular areas of expertise that we know we need to help support our overall operation. Board members go through a vetting process, beginning with me and then continuing through with the board chair, and then they interview with the board development committee before they're ever brought formally through to the board and then here to the annual meeting. There is an orientation process that is quite extensive where they're given all of the information related to Girl Scout history, our council's history, our mission, vision, values, all of our operational information related to our finances, our properties, our programming, and then also with respect to whatever particular committee they would be interested in. And we also then work to engage them in how they can be ambassadors for the council, depending on what their particular interest and focus is. I'm looking to May and other board members on how to flesh that out. One thing that I will note, there, Aaron Jones and Scott Hines. Aaron, it looks like you're back now. 2 board members from the South were not able to do the introductions. Scott also represents Tacoma. But anything the other board members would add to that?
This is MJ. I can give an example if you'd like. Oh, excuse me, Aaron. I think one of the questions is focused on when you perhaps speak to ground level, you might be speaking to what are we doing engaging with the girls? So in addition to the work that we get to do in supporting the board and supporting the leadership at GSWW and all of the teams so that they can execute really well. We also have the opportunity to engage at all different levels within the organization. An example of that is I am currently working very closely with the Girl Scouts of Western Washington to coordinate a group of volunteers who will then be taught by Girl Scouts of Western Washington the curriculum for cybersecurity, for the cybersecurity badge. And then the volunteers that we pull together from the different corporations will be the teachers, and we'll be doing virtual cybersecurity for brownies and juniors. And again, that's going to come in April, and we're super excited and so grateful for the Girl Scouts staff who's supporting us and helping us to engage in that and do that. So that's just an example of how we will be active and engaged, helping the mission of Girl Scouts.
Thanks, MJ. Aaron, did you?
And I just wanted to add that I've had the opportunity to speak at, I think, 4 troop meetings just in the last 2 months. So, I'm on the ground with kids every day, but with girls in Zoom calls, talking about politics, talking about education, talking about equity stuff. So, we try to get involved when we can on the ground with kids. So that's why I'm
Thanks,
on here.
Aaron. The partnership with the Tacoma schools came about because of our board member, Scott Hines, who's the former board chair for Tacoma School Board. He teed that up. So I hope that helps answer the question.
I think Carla has her non-virtual hand raised.
Yes.
Yes. One other thing I would say, just like when you were thanking Jackie for her service, a good portion of us started out as volunteers or troop leaders or parents of girls who were greatly enriched by the program. So I think that also gives us a lot of interest with the board, and a couple of our board members I know are actively involved still leading scout troops and on the ground with girls. So that really gives us the voice of the volunteer and the voice of the girls for the board. So I do think that that's an important part of what we've done too, is look for people in our volunteer ranks and encourage people who can volunteer or have the capacity to volunteer on the ground to do that as well.
Thank you, Carla.
Let's see. It looks like the next one we wanted to take live, again, I think puts you on the hot seat, Megan. Is the property assessment going to something that happens yearly, or is this something that is happening due to COVID? Is property being sold something that is going to be inevitable?
Thank you for the question. So the property assessment does not happen annually. It is something that we were already planning toward prior to COVID, as we have been really deeply scrubbing every facet of our operation to ensure that we are functioning as optimally and efficiently as possible. COVID did escalate the process, but we already knew that we were due for an intensive look at all of our property holdings. The property assessment, again, is looking at both office properties and camps. With COVID, it has changed the way we function so completely. The fact that we are staying in a remote work posture, for example, means that while we will have offices, we're using them and being in them in a different way. So, you know, it just makes sense to look at, do we need what we have in the same way? With respect to, you know, is it inevitable? We've not started the work with the board and volunteer camp assessment group yet. And so I don't want to jump the gun. I am a big believer in respecting process. And so we are going through this process together as a group. We will be looking at and there's been a lot of data gathering that has happened, and we're going to go through the process of looking at that analysis and collectively taking that forward. I won't rule out that selling properties could be an outcome, but I'm not going to subvert the process. I can't rule it out.
Thanks, Megan. Let's see, Robin Nussbaum, it looks like you get this next one. In the spirit of DEI, why do we not see that in programming? Are we going to offer camp or programs to other groups, or just the special camp session mentioned in the meeting for families of color?
Actually, Tara's going to take the first half of that,
Okay.
and then I may add to it. Tara Stone.
Yep, thank you. So this has been a gap in our program, and we are working to fix it. Our camp programming has been limited, of course, due to COVID-19. However, we are planning to host future camp programs with a focus that will rotate each year on specific communities. So this could include Black, Indigenous, people of color, LGBTQ+, special needs youth and foster youth. And we have done some of these programs in the past. Additional efforts in both our camp and program teams would include, but are not limited to, increasing seasonal camp staff and volunteer training to help make all programs more welcoming and inclusive, inviting speakers from these communities to be a part of our programs, and incorporating land acknowledgements. We're also looking at naming conventions at our sites. There's a number of different action steps that we're taking to make our camps and our programs more inclusive. And there was also a question in the chat related to having camp programming that rotates specific to each communities, and whether or not this was a form of segregation. And I'm going to hand that back to Robin Nussbaum to speak to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tara. So providing specialized programming for communities that have historically been excluded is about recognizing how systemic oppression has excluded those communities from our programming in the past. And so offering these events for those communities helps build inclusion, a sense of belonging, and a safety for those communities to engage with us. And I believe they're not set up to be 100% exclusive, but more like targeted or really sort of special aimed at a certain group of people. So we don't see it as segregation, we see it as really reaching out to the communities that we want to be serving.
Thanks, Robin. I'm looking in our chat here at the next set of questions to be answered, and I'm afraid that I will admit that I've gotten a little lost because I'm not seeing responses from people. So Jen, do you have a good idea of what our next question is? Okay, so I see a palm oil question, which is going to go to Tara Jones. So Tara, I'll give you that second to prep yourself. It's been 4 years since the issue of palm oil use in cookies has been brought up. Throughout those 4 years, GSWW keeps saying that things will change, but nothing has. Can this issue please be addressed and dealt with immediately?
Thank you for that question. And I totally understand the frustration here. We are equally as frustrated. under no circumstances would we ever as a council support putting our rainforest in jeopardy and the habitat that lives within that rainforest. And of course, anything that has to do with child labor abuse. We are working closely with our bakers, and for our council, it happens to be Little Brownie Baker, and they are part of the roundtable on sustainable palm oil, and they are trying to get their suppliers to shift as quickly as possible to get to the point where we have 100% deforestation free and exploitation free palm oil supply chain. As you all know, palm oil is a bigger issue than just Girl Scout cookies. It's in many of our health and beauty products as well as other foods. They constantly keep us updated from the national level at GSUSA, as well as our council level as they make progress towards getting to a sustainable and a certified segregated palm oil chain. So I know it's hard to stay patient given all the atrocities that are happening right now, but please know that we are trying to work with Little Brownie Baker to get to the point where we can safely say that all of our cookies are not part of the of destroying our rainforest or using children in an abusive manner. So I hope that answers your question. It's not the answer I was hoping to give you today, but we are working towards that goal of making sure that any ingredient in our cookies are safe and for a human standpoint as well as from an environmentally standpoint.
Thanks, Tara. Once again, scrolling through these questions, looks like a lot of them were answered in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm looking to our girl voices to make sure that we get those heard. Let's see. Looks like Megan, this is a youth question. Are any of our camps at risk of being sold? Will the volunteers get a chance to weigh in?
I'm unmuted already. So on the board and volunteer camp assessment advisory group that is currently in formation, we have an application process that's open until, can't remember if the deadline is Sunday or Monday. Somebody help me out there. Have been receiving a lot of applications for that. So that is one way for membership to be involved in that process. That committee will also be helping inform how we set up additional avenues for engagement. Oh, just heard that the application closes end of day today. So there will be other avenues for input into that process besides just that committee itself.
What?
Somebody say something? Oh, okay. And again, I cannot rule out that a recommendation as an outcome for this process would be that a camp or camps be sold. That is a possibility. The necessity that we have, the way that we're having to look at this is camp is bedrock to who we are as a council. We have to be able to continue to provide strong camp programming. That is part of how we be true to our mission In order to be able to do that, we need to be able to support, maintain the camp properties themselves, as well as grow what we offer as camp programs. And can we do that sustainably, maintaining all of the properties that we have?
Thanks, Megan. I have a question here that's actually several different questions. So I'm going to send the first one to you, Megan. Is there any news coming on the new East Side location?
At this point, given everything that we are in the midst of with the pandemic, we have not yet started working toward an East Side location. After we have moved through the office part of the property assessment, I would anticipate that would help inform what we would do on the East Side.
Thank you. We also have a question. Are the Q&A captured here going to be available for us to read after the meeting? It's hard to follow what's being answered online and listening as well. Also, we'll be able to rewatch the recording of this meeting, and I can go ahead and answer that and say it's our goal that by the end of the month or the end of this month that we will have the recording available for people, as well as a transcription of the questions that were asked and those answers that were given made available through our website for membership and others who were not able to join us today.
And the next question up will be for Leanne. Will there be a requirement for Girl Scout volunteers to be vaccinated before going back to in-person activities? Throw it over to Leanne Stivers for an answer, please.
Thanks, Jen. We announced in January that we're working through our modified in-person programming. And so what that looks like is we have an internal pandemic committee that sorts through GSUSA, Washington State, CDC, American Camp Association, you name it, the regulations, and we're reviewing them and layering that into that programming. The vaccine policy for Girl Scouts is also being asked of that committee to think through. So we hope to have our draft plan ready at the end of this month. We're going to take that out to membership, key stakeholders, to provide feedback on our new policies and what that's going to look like for modified in-person programming. And then we hope to have that published and ready for everyone at the end of March, early April. So we're eager to get back in person, but we know that safety is at the forefront of these decisions. So more to come on that and where we stand with the vaccine policy moving forward. Thanks for your question.
Thanks, Leanne. Nicole Franco, I have a question about a plan for the donated bricks at the DuPont Center. Will donors be able to get them back if they choose?
Hello, Nicole Franco here. Yes, those donors that have reached out to us already requesting their bricks will receive those, and Cesar, our office supervisor at the DuPont office, will be contacting those individuals about arranging pickup. We also, those bricks that are not claimed, we will be storing, and then as we work for future design and location plans for what to do with those bricks, to recognize the donations that have been given to our council. Those plans will be announced in the future, and we will have those bricks available to use.
Thank you. I actually have a few questions. This first one is going to be for Mecca Stevenson with our product program department. This comes from one of our youth delegates. Would you consider having current Girl Scouts have a say in the Girl Scout cookie prizes? 2 Girl Scouts from each level that change every year, just to get a different point of view.
Sure, thank you, Jen. The cookie prizes, we certainly could put something together, but those prizes under 395, those are a package we get from the bakery. So we don't go out and actually find those ourselves. They give us a selection of prizes and we choose from within those. And they do spend about 2 years for each year's prizes, vetting those through girl committees. We do surveys of our rewards out to members, and we actually stopped doing it a couple years ago because the response rate was low, but that is absolutely something we could look at. Just understand that the choices may not be as wide ranging as some people would expect to have.
Thank you. Megan and May, I think this next question, it's a combination. We've had several asks. What can we do to recruit more board members from more than just King, Pierce, and Snohomish for our further outlying areas, including our southern counties, our counties on the peninsula, and our further north counties?
So that is recruitment from those areas is a designated priority for our board development committee. And the thing that is what we're working to do is identify key community leaders who we then network with to identify candidates who would be appropriate to sit on our board. And so what you can do is identify who could be those key community leaders and connect me with them. That's the critical way to move forward with it. For example, last year, shortly before the pandemic hit, I met with the president of Western, and we were actively engaged in working on potential board prospects from the Bellingham area, and then everything went sideways.
Can I add something? As
Absolutely.
one of the board members, not in King County, I mean, the challenge, I already responded to someone and I was getting ready to respond to that question in the chat. I mean, the other challenge is the board meetings have been held at headquarters. And what that means for me as someone who lives in Olympia is it's 2 hours each way driving. So now that we have the ability to be virtual, I think what it's taught us is we can engage people without them having to come, because it is a much bigger wait for me to show up in a board meeting than it is for somebody who lives half an hour away. And I mean, I'm just imagining somebody coming from Longview or Vancouver, that's a whole day. By the time you drive to a board meeting and home, that's a day's time. But now that we have this virtual space, I think there are ways to get creative and it becomes more doable for someone who doesn't live half an hour or an hour away, because it is really crazy. I mean, I literally have to give up 4 hours of time based on traffic to get to a meeting. But I think we can leverage the virtual environment now in ways that we didn't before.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Erin. And I want to be respectful of our time. We've got about 4 minutes left. I do have a youth question, and this is going to go to Katie Johnston and Julie Wendell. How are we going to keep the Girl Scout spirit alive, and how are we not going to lose any more Girl Scouts?
Hello there. I'm Katie Johnson, the Senior Membership Director, and I want to speak a little bit to the trying not to lose any more girls. We are actively trying to find new program opportunities and trying to find ways to excite our members. Girl Scouts has always been led by our Girl Scouts, and so trying to find things that youth members are excited about to engage in and keep us going is really how we're trying to keep it alive, and being responsive to what it is that we're hearing from youth, from our volunteers, and adapting every time as much as we possibly can. And I want to invite Julie Wendell to see if you want to speak to anything that's happening in the program world specifically.
Thanks, Katie. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Wendell, Vice President of Program, and I have been so impressed by our program team and their ability to pivot during the pandemic to offer a wide variety of virtual program opportunities. In Q1 of 2021, we offered 185 programs, and that was our standard programs as well as our collaboration with our program partners. And so I encourage you to stay connected to our Girl Scouts of Western Washington calendar, where you can see all of these program opportunities listed. And we also have program level hot sheets. So if you want to look and see what is exclusively available for the Girl Scout in your program level or levels, you can click on those hot sheets and they are available on that calendar page on our website as well.
Thanks, Julie and Katie. We had a request for a quick follow-up on the bricks at the DuPont Center. If you're not certain what's written on your bricks, we do have photos of all the bricks, so you can give us a general idea and we'll be able to figure it out. And you can email DuPontMoveTeam@gsww.org to request a brick pickup. So it looks like maybe one last question. Jen, do you want to pick is there a youth one we can grab real quick?
Yes, actually, I think this has been a popular question. And there was some confusion about a response. I'm going to throw this over to our camp team. Is it possible that volunteer-led camp next summer? Is it possible that there will be a volunteer-led camp next summer, summer 21, but no council resident camp?
Hey, Jen, thanks. We're still working through what our summer programming is going to look like, but there are different considerations for our volunteer-led camps and our staff-led camps in terms of planning. With our staff-led camps, those run typically about 8 weeks through the summer, and we have to have all staff there and everything ready to go end of May, early June in order to set those up. Whereas some of our volunteer-led camps, in fact, we met with our community camp volunteers just this morning, are able to be a little more nimble. Some of them happen later in the summer. And so we're waiting to find out more about restrictions that are going to be in place. We're working through, as we've shared in some of the written responses, working through what our guidelines are and how we're going to, what kind of programming we can offer for this coming summer, and hope to have that ready to share in March. But we are looking at different programs differently to see what's feasible.
And as a follow-up to that, and this will be the last one, I do believe, this is from a volunteer standpoint. As a volunteer, I found the process of applying for troop camp to be exhausting. Can we focus on making that process better?
As we prepare I'm assuming that's talking about site reservations and reserving spaces for encamperees and troop camps. We are definitely evaluating all of that. We've had to put all of it on hold. And so as we look at reopening site reservations for camps, we're evaluating all of those processes to see where improvements can be made.
Thank you.
Jen, one thing that I'd like to add is that we have extended the deadline for the Camp Property Advisory Group application through midnight tomorrow night. And the link to it is up in, where is it, Nicole? Is it in the chat?
That is correct.
Okay.
I will also put it in, I will answer the question that was in the Q&A with it so that anybody viewing the questions in the Q&A will be able to see it.
All right.
Thanks, Jen. Carla, as our board chair pro tem, I'm going to pass it to you to close our meeting today.
Just a reminder that if there were questions that weren't answered by our staff team, they're going to be put in on the website by the end of the month. So we've run out of time for questions and we've been collecting questions. And remember that we're very happy for all of you who've taken time out of your day to add that. Add those questions and we are going to get you answers. If there's no further business, I declare the annual meeting adjourned. I don't have a gavel, I'll have to use my. I declare the annual meeting adjourned. Thank you so much for joining us today. And here's to a better, stellar, hopefully, year ahead.
And board, board members, we have a board meeting starting in about 12 minutes. We'll be off the Zoom platform and onto the Teams platform. So I will see you all over there. May is waving goodbye. It makes me a little sad. Normally I would pass things over to May and now I'm not. So I'm very sad about that. So thank you again, everybody who was able to attend today. We really do appreciate your attendance at this annual event.
Thank you all. Bye, Jackie. Bye, May.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
I want to stay on and record these questions that have come in, or does it save the Q&A?
I was wondering about that too. We better make sure we've got them somehow or another. Whew, that was intense, actually, trying to keep track. And
we still have attendees on the call still.
Oh, sorry.